What is going on, YouTube? So I just got done with my NFL player rankings. Coming back now with my college football top 10 of the day. So obviously just said what category I'm going to be doing it in. And today I'm going to be doing my top 10 college football quarterbacks heading into 2016. So while I'm in the middle of my ranking series right now, I've already done my college football. Instead of doing like a ranking series for college football, because that'd be kind of hard to do with obviously the transition process of recruiting and then graduation, NFL draft, all that stuff, I actually did a big board. Instead of that, I did the same thing for college basketball. But since I did that, I wanted to do my top 10 college football quarterbacks. And I'm basing this off of a couple things, obviously. Just when you're talking about rankings for a following season, you are really basing it 50% off hype and expectation, and then 50% off of stats and play from the previous year. So go ahead and start with my five. I'm going to be doing a 5 outside. Also, start with my first player on the 5 outside, and I have the Louisville Cardinals quarterback, who will be a sophomore next year, and that is Lamar Jackson. So Lamar Jackson's extremely athletic. I believe he did lead Louisville to a Music City Bowl win over Texas A&M. He's leading a Louisville team that is having top 25 hype into 2016. Last year, not extremely impressive stats through the regular season by any means. 1,840 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. I believe he also had over 500 rushing yards to add to that. I believe actually he had over 800. I need to look at that for sure. But he put up a ton of rushing yards, over 200 rushing yards in the Music City Bowl. He had an extremely good game. I believe he was the MVP of that game as well, and should be one of the biggest sleepers to be a breakout player in 2016. So at number 4, I've got the Notre Dame quarterback, that is DeSean Kaiser. So DeSean Kaiser, I believe, will be a senior this year. Now, I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be starting. It's kind of a toss-up right now between him and Malik Zaire. I believe they're about the same. They'd probably be ranked around the same area. DeSean Kaiser filling in for Malik Zaire was tremendous last year, put up 2,884 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions for a Notre Dame team that was contending for the college football playoff for a little while and ended up with a Fiesta Bowl berth and a loss to Ohio State. So number 3, I've got the Iowa Hawkeyes quarterback, and that is C.J. Beathard. So Beathard led an incredibly spirited Hawkeyes attack last year that did not lose until the Big Ten Championship and then kind of got throttled by Stanford in the Rose Bowl. But Beathard had a tremendous season nonetheless, 2,809 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I think that Beathard will have a similar season in 2016. Not sure if the Hawkeyes will be able to replicate the success, but you think they would at least be able to be decent with a lot of returning starters, including, like I said, C.J. Beathard and one of the best defensive backs in the country in Des King. So at number 2, I've got I think it is. Is Des King returning? I think he is. Yeah, he is. Anyway, at number 2, I've got the Oklahoma State starting quarterback, and that is Mason Rudolph. Go Pokes. So Mason Rudolph last year threw for 3,770 yards, 21 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Now, the touchdown number would have been higher if it wasn't for J.W. Walsh in the 2-quarterback system last year. He took a lot of touchdowns away from Rudolph, I believe somewhere in the ballpark, 15. Walsh was kind of the goal line package option last year, but with him gone, Rudolph should take another step forward with returning receivers such as Marcel Aitman, James Washington, and a lot of returning running backs, including bringing graduate transfer Barry Sanders Jr. So should be an improved year for him. So my number 1 on the 5 outside is the Tennessee Volunteers quarterback, and that is Joshua Dobbs. So after taking over in the middle of 2014, Josh Dobbs has led what's been a very, very good Tennessee team. Finished in the top 25 last year and is actually getting top 10 sort of hype this year. I've talked about this a lot during the offseason. Tennessee always is the champion of the offseason. That's the nickname they've received now, but it seems like the hype is warranted more now than it really has been the last 10 years. And last year he threw for 2,291 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, is a very good dual-threat quarterback. Tennessee obviously was very close to winning a lot of games last year. They did not, including Alabama, Florida, Arkansas. Arkansas was probably the furthest away from winning, but what am I missing? OU as well. So I think it'll be another good year for Josh Dobbs. He returns a lot of weapons. Tennessee returns a lot of weapons on both sides of the ball, and he gets that three-headed monster back in the backfield along with Alvin Kamara and Jalen Hurd. So at number 10, moving to the top 10, I've got the promising UCLA sophomore quarterback, and that is Josh Rosen. I mentioned Josh Rosen a lot last year. I'm very high on him along with a lot of other people. For a very good true freshman campaign, he had over 3,000 yards, 3,670 yards, 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Now, the consistency has got to be there. It got better as the year went along. Obviously, freshman mistakes. I think it will. I think he'll take another step forward, a big step forward this year. They do lose a little bit along the offense. They ended up losing Thomas Duarte to the NFL draft, a move that still doesn't make sense in my mind. But anyway, they also lost Paul Perkins, one of the most talented running backs in the country. So anyway, I think they do have Soso Jamabo coming back, one of the most talented freshman running backs last year. And I think that Josh Rosen will be definitely a top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 5 by his junior season. So at number 9, I said number 4, I got the Washington State quarterback, and that is Luke Falk. So Luke Falk had All-American type numbers last year with 4,561 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Put up absolutely tremendous numbers, was incredibly efficient, and leads a Wazoo team that actually has top 25 type hype in this year also in a Power 5 conference, which has been a while since Washington State's been that good. So good to see that coming back, and you can pretty much chalk it all up to Luke Falk. So at number 8, I've got the Ole Miss quarterback, Chad Kelly. So Kelly was a little bit inconsistent at the beginning of last year, but really started pulling it together at the end, had a tremendous Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma State. 4,042 yards, 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and should improve in this coming season. Ole Miss is another team that has top 15 type hype heading into 2016. So at number 7, I've got the Miami Hurricanes quarterback, and that is Brad Kaaya. So Kaaya took another step forward this past year, and should take another step forward this year with Mark Richt coming in. They returned quite a bit of talent. They lost quite a bit after Kaaya's freshman year. But this is a guy that's talking about as being like the second best quarterback in this upcoming quarterback class, and he does have a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of weapons coming back. My favorite one coming back for this year is Joseph Yerby. I mentioned his name a lot. I think he's a very talented running back. But anyway, last year Brad Kaaya put up 3,238 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I think those numbers will go up a little bit this year. And maybe see a 9 or 10 win Miami team, hopefully Miami improved team. So at number 6, I've got the Texas Tech quarterback, and that is Patrick Mahomes. So Mahomes, one of the leaders last year in passing yards, 4,653, 36 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, leading a very high-powered Texas Tech offense. Don't know if Texas Tech's going to be improved. Obviously, offense isn't the issue. They have one of the worst defenses in the nation. If they even had a middle-of-the-pack defense, this would be a top 25 team, but don't know if that's going to be able to pull through. So at number 5, I've got the Ohio State quarterback, that is JT Barrett. Now, the biggest concern for Ohio State is obviously the weapons are around JT Barrett. They lose, obviously, Ezekiel Elliott. They lose Michael Thomas along the offense, and I think the thing that'll help out JT Barrett a lot, and this has been mentioned a lot during this offseason, is the fact that he's the guy. He's ready to go. The offense worked a lot better under him last year than it did Cardale Jones. He missed a lot of time last year, which is why the stats were so low. Whether it was just not starting or the DUI incident, he had 992 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, leading Ohio State to a 1-loss season and a Fiesta Bowl victory. So at number 4, I've got the Baylor quarterback, and that is Seth Russell. So Seth Russell was on pace to be one of the best, if not the best, quarterback last year statistically. Went down with a neck injury around the middle of the year, but before that, threw for 2,104 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Good for leading the nation in QBR. He was tremendous until he went down with injury. Had a stacked set of receivers at Baylor between Jay Lee, Katie Cannon, Corey Coleman, and I think with Katie Cannon coming back, with the stacked set of running backs coming back, including Shock Linwood. Jesus Christ, my mind's going blank on Baylor running backs right now. There's so many of them. Oh, Devin Shafine, Johnny Jefferson. should be able to have another tremendous year. Got a lot of offensive weapons coming back. Baylor's always been able to recruit athletes at wide receiver too, ever since Art Briles came in. So at number 3, I've got the Houston quarterback, and that is Greg Ward Jr. So statistically, maybe shouldn't be this high. I'm just extremely high on Greg Ward. He led Houston to a top 10 ranking, a Peach Bowl win over Florida State last year, an absolutely huge win, and this seems like it is the make or break year for Houston. They get OU, and they've got the recognition to be a college football playoff team, even though they are a group of 5 team. If they do go undefeated, I'm assuming they will be a college football playoff team. So he put up 2,828 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions last year en route to a 1-loss season for Houston. So at number 2, I've got the OU quarterback, Heisman contender last year, Baker Mayfield. So the former Texas Tech transfer was able to put up 3,700 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions en route to a college football playoff berth for OU. He was tremendous down the stretch last year, extremely tough, a big improvement over Trevor Knight, leading Trevor Knight to actually transfer, and leading an OU team that has top 5 type hype in 2016 as well. So at number 1, this is clear-cut number 1 as well. No better quarterback in college football, and no quarterback really even come close to him, and that is the Clemson quarterback Deshaun Watson. So last year put up 4,104 yards, 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and you might actually see improved stats this year with another full year under Deshaun Watson's belt of experience. Maybe a little bit of a chip on his shoulder after losing the national championship and bringing back Mike Williams, having Deion Kane back from suspension, and Artavis Scott, forgot about him also. Really got a whole another set, and Jordan Leggett, forgot about that as well, the talented tight end coming back. So he's got a whole host of weapons coming back, the Wayne train, and should be another huge year for Clemson. So that pretty much does it. Very fun video to do. I always like talking college football. Obviously, that was the main thing I talked about when college football was around. So that's pretty much it. If you have not seen the last 2 top 10 videos, I'll put the link to the entire top 10 playlist in the description below if you want to check out any of the previous videos. And like I said, also the last 2 days of top 10 videos will be in the outro. So that's pretty much it. See ya. And up to this point, we are through the round of 64 and then through, I believe, 2 games in the round of 32, Duke beating Yale, and then Wichita State losing to Miami. So this is my 10 biggest surprises from the first round of the tournament so far. And at number 10, I've got Wichita State over Arizona.